Any list of the greatest boxers to ever lace them up would simply be incomplete without the addition of one name, Floyd Mayweather. The self-proclaimed TBE is 50-0. He's rarely been challenged, and he's the highest-paid athlete of the decade in any sport. So why exactly is someone with those credentials boxing a YouTuber with a career professional record of 0-1 in an 8-round exhibition bout on Sunday night? Well, there's a simple answer. They don't call him Money Mayweather for nothing. From a technical perspective, there's not too much to analyze ahead of Floyd's fight with Logan Paul. From the promotional side, though, you can't accuse either one of not playing their part. Is there a chance Logan Paul, being the much bigger and stronger man, can land that one lucky punch to shock the world? I guess, as they say, anything is possible. Or is Floyd perhaps lining up another potential 9-figure payday with Logan's younger brother, Jake Paul? No matter what, you're likely to get your money's worth from an entertainment standpoint Sunday night in Miami, only on Showtime pay-per-view.
And for more on the fight in Miami Gardens this Sunday night, let's now welcome in our two fight guys, Brian Campbell, Luke Thomas, hosts of the Morning Combat podcast. Gentlemen, good to see you. Welcome to Florida. The lead up to this fight, I mean, it's been nuts. Stipulations in this fight, not what we're used to seeing. What has that done for the fan expectations for this fight, BC?
I have to think it's played well into the people that like fiascos, pro wrestling scenarios, and in sort of over-the-top promotion. This has had that in spades. It's also obviously irritated the old guard, hardcore boxing fan because it's not what we're used to. But it is something. Yeah, I don't know if you can call that something special. If it's entertaining enough to warrant being here, we'll find out afterwards. But it is something. Floyd Mayweather, 44 years old, not an active fighter, going up there against a guy 6 inches taller with 4 inches longer reach, 18 years younger. It's certainly not, experience versus experience here, but you don't exactly know what it's going to look like at the end of the day. And I still think there's something about that train wreck. It's hard to turn away from.
Luke, what do you think about fan expectations for this? Because as BC mentioned, I mean, it's been kind of a sideshow. There's been all kinds of shenanigans that have gone on. So as a fan, I mean, are you excited about what you're going to see, even though Floyd Mayweather comes in as a favorite here?
No, I am not in any way interested in this fight as a competitive exercise. Listen, I understand the business of it. I think what you heard from Brian is exactly correct. The interesting thing about what the fan response has been is it sort of tells you what camp, so to speak, or what orientation they have as a fan. Here's what I mean. If someone is like an old school kind of person, a little bit more of a purist, I would identify myself in that kind of a way, the rules almost kind of tell you how silly it is. On the other hand, if you're coming to this from a more entertainment angle, you don't really care about too many of the details, they're not really bothered by any of them. And in particular, they might even be encouraged because even though this is an exhibition and there's no official winner, Florida and the commission herein will allow for knockouts. So there is the potential for that kind of excitement. But, am I like on pins and needles about what I think is going to happen? I know what's going to happen. Floyd's going to stretch him. It just, he'll just decide when that happens.
So Mayweather, I mean, not worried. As you mentioned, Luke, boxing traditionalists, not worried for Mayweather. But let's talk about the shock outcome. Luke, finish this sentence for us. BC, you can follow. Logan Paul can walk away victorious if
he doesn't get stretched. But understand what I mean when I say victorious, or in the way in which you worded the question. He can still lose, and lose badly, and I still think there's something salvageable there. In fact, I even said to him yesterday, like his coach is talking about how we're going to outbox Floyd. Okay, you're not going to outbox Floyd. That's fun, but you're not going to do that. But you don't have to do that, Brian. You don't have to do any of that. You have to land one good punch people can remember. You have to survive in a way that people can say, you know what, that guy showed a ton of grit. You don't have to box in any of those traditional notions, but you got to show them something in a positive light that they can remember you by.
Yeah, I can back you up on that and say, comedically, what needs to happen. A tropical storm, something that shakes the earth that prevents the fight that happening. Is that Jake Paul's best way of having success? Reality is, his best way of success is using the size advantage and youth advantage he has. He could be 45 to 50 pounds more than Mayweather. You're not going to outskill a guy. Even at 44, you got to make it a little bit crazy, bend the rules, get aggressive, do things to Floyd that he is not used to seeing. Conor McGregor didn't necessarily do that 4 years ago in their super fight. He came from a more legitimate fighting background. He also tried to outbox Floyd. You can't do it. That's not what's going to happen. So short of a natural disaster here, knocking Floyd over and Logan Paul's the victor, he's going to have to go out there and make it crazy to have a best chance. It also could speed up his exit, knowing that Floyd would be waiting there.
Well, I mean, it has featured things that we've never seen before. I mean, social media was crashed for Mayweather. The hat was taken, that whole fiasco with that. So, I mean, it really has turned into a bit of a circus. Okay, so let's turn it around here. Floyd Mayweather can walk away victorious if BC, I'll start with you, Luke, follow.
Really, if he avoids the big shot. Now, he's going to have to deal potentially with a much bigger man if Logan Paul has learned how to lean on him and cut off the ring. Things that you don't just naturally learn in boxing. If he's been able to pick up any of that, obviously that can be a thing. But at the end of the day, he's got to land a meaningful, square, flush, hard, heavy punch. Floyd doesn't give you a lot of openings for that. If Floyd can avoid the big one, Logan Paul just doesn't have the experience to really use that size and athleticism to make him pay, let's say with the jab or going to the body. It really feels like it's going to have to be an all-or-nothing type punch. Floyd will see that coming, and he's going to have to avoid it.
Yeah, Floyd only has to walk to the ring. I mean, I just can't be clear about this. For anyone looking at this right now, Floyd is going to win this fight, and if you were laboring under any other delusion, I don't know, I'm sure what to tell you. So, I mean, yes, you have to respect that you have another big, strong athlete in front of you. If, in fact, he lands, you can say what you want about your skill. You can say what you want about your resume. The punch is going to have a physical impact. So in that sense, he cannot be so dismissive of the chances that he goes in there and just gives the fight away. But I just mean to say that the skill gap is so enormous that it would take, I don't even know, it would take utter calamity for anything other than Floyd getting, well, he won't get his hand raised because there's no official declaration, but for Floyd to do anything other than stop him.
So Floyd Mayweather, I mean, we're not worried about him. And as you mentioned, Luke, he's not necessarily active as a fighter, but he might already be looking beyond Logan Paul, perhaps, to a rematch with Conor McGregor. Here's what he and Mayweather promotion CEO Lloyd Ellerby had to say about that.
What I say to Conor, if you listening, you can get that too.
Okay.
You can get that too.
Floyd would be down for a rematch?
Absolutely, easy.
What is the beef? Because we were there in Vegas when you guys were arm in arm and sharing.
The beef is all these guys look up to me, steal my blueprint, and then get to hating on me.
All right, so he's talking to you guys about that. I mean, what are your thoughts about another possible bout between McGregor and Floyd?
I want to jump in there and say, look, I'd actually be excited about it because maybe I get down a little bit more on this side of the theatrical, fun celebrity fights. But I think what Floyd is what he's just saying is it's something he told us. You know, I'm retired from traditional boxing, but I'm retired from entertaining people, and I've retired from accepting large amounts of money if you're going to back up the Brinks truck to me. He found the perfect foil in Conor McGregor. It was two, you know, the perfect storm of things coming together. He kind of found that again with the Paul brothers. Logan this time, will he fight Jake in the future? I'm not sure how that's all going to play out, but I also think Floyd, as he said, he would take Conor McGregor. It would do monster business this many years removed from that. Now that Floyd's older, can you talk yourself into Conor being more competitive? Maybe, I don't know. But I think the public would want it and love it and accept it, and I'm not even sure heading into July 10th, McGregor's trilogy bout against Dustin Poirier in the UFC cage, whether his career is going in that right direction where he's going to keep winning in the UFC. I can see that happening.
Again, you can like these fights or you can hate these fights. You are allowed to have either position, and either one is frankly understandable, but they are going to continue to happen as long as there is a market for them. I would argue the fight, if he does a fight with Conor for a second time, you know, Conor is a legitimate fighter. That is a little bit different than what we're seeing here this upcoming weekend. But, you know, you heard Floyd, unequivocal. You heard Leonard Ellerby, unequivocal. These guys would be all too happy. It's interesting, you know, when Floyd was fighting the Baldemirs of his career, this kind of market opportunity didn't really exist. Now, it's not just for Floyd. We're seeing all kinds of retired fighters take advantage of a kind of phenomenon as long as it's here, and I don't think it's going to be here forever, but it is right now, where you can cash big checks fighting people who are totally out of their depth. That's just the reality of it. And if you're Floyd Mayweather, most people you encounter in terms of boxing are completely out of your depth. So as long as the rules can be accommodated for this, Floyd can keep doing this for a long time.
As mentioned, if you want to throw money at me, go ahead. I'll take it. Let's get back to the Paul brothers. Logan's brother Jake has announced his next fight versus Tyron Woodley. That will go in Miami as well. And Jake proposed interesting wager for this fight. Put the winnings on the line. He says if Woodley wins, Jake will double the purse. And if Woodley loses, the former UFC champion has to donate his purse to charity. Has this added some fuel to the fire here, Luke?
You know what? Maybe. This fight this weekend, this exhibition between Logan Paul and Floyd, it's one thing. The Jake Paul-Tyron Woodley fight, they're similar for many different reasons, but they are not the same. I think that's a much more competitive contest. Tyron Woodley, certainly I think you could argue is very much post-prime, but very much a heavy puncher. We even saw that in his last UFC fight before he was released. And you got to look at Jake Paul and say, dude, this guy goes in there and had the entire MMA world, including fans, commentators, presidents of organization, eating out of the palm of his hand, talking about this guy. He finally sets this up, and then he goes in there and then just doubles down with extraordinary confidence. Understand something. I don't think Tyron was shook in any way. Tyron's an experienced guy. He's going up against a lot of very, very decorated, tough competitors, and he's had his share of trash talking himself. But it did look to me like he was surprised at just how in control Jake Paul was during the moments of that exchange. Highly interesting.
And the size difference. I mean, Jake Paul is naturally 20 to 25 pounds bigger in terms of his competition weight. I think that's really good matchmaking in this space of celebrity crossover fights. But I think the point for Jake that we need to say is he doesn't want to be considered a celebrity fighter or whatever. He wants to be considered a legitimate fighter. He's 3-0 with 3 knockouts. None have come against legitimate opponents. At least Tyron Woodley is that next step in the direction of, if you're going to prove that you're real, prove it to us. We're certainly going to be watching each step. This is a good step forward.
So we have Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather on Sunday, Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley in August, but this summer features so much more in the squared circle, doesn't it, BC?
It's a big fight for combat sports. Boxing back in a big way. You know, Conor Dustin 3 in July, it's going to be out of control.
We should also note, to the point of, in the spirit of his question, BC, you know certainly as well as anyone, this is not the core of what Showtime does. They announced their whole full calendar for the summer. You're independent of that, you're going to get the Wilder and Fury trilogy. So, like, yes, these moments do arrive. If you like it, get on board. If you don't, wait for the next one. But big boxing, real boxing between the best in the world, plenty of it coming this summer.
And I know you guys are dying to go put on your Versace robes and take it easy for the rest of the afternoon in Miami, so I will bid you both adieu. Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell breaking down all things boxing ahead of the 8-round exhibition coming up on Sunday night. Great stuff, gentlemen. Good to see you. And, of course, you can hear more from these two on their podcast, Morning Combat. Download and follow wherever you get your podcast audio.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.